Welcome back to the Pond Lehocky Eagles postgame show live at Ocean Casino, where it ended with a thud tonight, and I still can't believe the final score was 32-9 as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would beat the Philadelphia Eagles, who started this year so brilliantly and just had it completely collapse. It is now time as Kayla Santiago joins us for Kayla's Diamond Debate. Kayla, I know we can talk about some jewels. There were no jewels in the game tonight for the Eagles, but what are we talking about here with as far as Mark's Jewelers?
Yeah, well, Mark's Diamond Jewelers, they always have us covered, have fantastic pearls, bracelets, earrings, anything that you can imagine. Now that Eagles fans, you'll have some free time, unfortunately. Make sure you go to Mark's Diamond Jewelers today. They have everything you need and more, especially early in the new year. Now, this is a tough thing to debate because I think right now for our Diamond Debate that we put on Twitter, make sure you go vote if you haven't already. It's kind of obvious at this point. You look at the coaching staff as a whole and you say, okay, who could go? Defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, Nick Sirianni. I personally think they clean the house. But, Seth, I'm going to go to you first for this. Is there any chance they get rid of everybody, including Howie Roseman? Do you think that anything can happen at this point, or do you really think that front office is going to stay intact here?
Oh, Howie's not going anywhere. Howie's not going anywhere. Those who run the analytics department isn't going anywhere. They've been here 12-plus years through, three different coaches or 2 or 3 different coaches. So they're not going anywhere. The only person that I can see if he wants to staying is Jeff Stoutland. Everybody else is dispensable, in my opinion. They're 100% dispensable.
For you guys, Mark, I'll go to you. Do you see any chance of Nick Sirianni possibly staying and then bringing in a good offensive coordinator? And we talked about it. You guys talked about it a little bit, too. You said, okay, well, if it's a competitive game, possibly you keep Nick Sirianni. Yeah. But at this point, they just got embarrassed in primetime.
Again. And it was just a capstone on what was a horrible collapse for this Philadelphia Eagles football team. There is no – people are talking about, there's a lot of tough decisions for Jeffrey Lurie to be making. This is an easy decision. The team is begging you to fire their head coach. The way they played after Week 18 against the Giants told you that. The way they ended the season, obviously, in total told you that. And the way they played tonight told you that. There was supposed to be this rah-rah speech in the locker room for this team. You didn't see any of that. I will give credit to one guy we haven't shouted out enough so far on the postgame show, and that's just Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith showed me something tonight. He wanted to go out there and play ball. No A.J. Brown, his opportunity to step up and play. You're down in this game, his opportunity to step up and play. He brought it every single time he was out there on the field tonight. I give him a lot of credit. It's the lone bright spot, really. But everything else is going to get changed for this Eagles team. Jalen Hurts isn't going anywhere. Howie Roseman isn't going anywhere. Jeffrey Lurie obviously isn't going anywhere. Nick Sirianni will not be coaching this football team next year.
And I know
one more guy. They can keep Michael Clark.
There you go. That's a good one.
If all the guys are turning around, I did not expect him to do it. That's for sure.
And I know you guys were talking about possibly who could be a head coach to bring in. And I heard D-Gun say, listen, they might not like a defensive guy like Bill Belichick, but at the end of the day, Jeffrey Lurie wants to win another Super Bowl ring. Mike, I'm going to go to you. It's clear that they want Jalen Hurts to be their guy. Is there any coach out there, you look at Belichick, you look at Carroll, you look at Jim Harbaugh, even any coach out there right now that you say needs to be in this system for a guy like Jalen Hurts? Because clearly if he doesn't have a good coach, he's not going to play up to par.
I mean, I don't know what innovative offensive coaches are out there, Kayla, and that's what it would take, unless they would eye some offensive coordinator who's like rolling and is the hot name, which they usually do, hire a hot name. If it were me, I would change my philosophy. I mean, trying these novice coaches because you see something special in them that nobody else sees, I think you've got to abandon that now. And this was such a meltdown that I would go with a more experienced coach, whether he's defensive oriented or not. I would get some direction in this. Instead, Sirianni had a grace period here. To getting to the Super Bowl was a magnificent development. You thought you had the coach that was so innovative, but the longer time went on, you saw that he really didn't have the goods. So I think you got to go deeper now instead of stop guessing to find out a guy who aces your interview and get a guy that has a track record.
If you want to go deeper, then we got to go all the way deep, Mike. That's not quite deep enough. Okay?
You want to bring Belichick in?
No,
That's going deep.
Let's talk about how we got to Doug Peterson and how we got to Nick Sirianni. Let's just be honest, okay? It all started when Chip Kelly put Howie Roseman in the closet. And when Howie got out of the closet, do you think he was ever going to hire another head coach that was an authority figure, that could question his authority, or that could get in Jeffrey's ear and usurp any of his power?
No, you're right. You're right
Jeffrey,
about that.
And Jeffrey didn't like it either. So now you've got Jeffrey and Howie that see things a similar way. They're not going to go out and go in and bring a guy like Bill Belichick in here because Bill Belichick's personality is
I totally agree. It would be off the charts odd that they would do something like that. But what I'm saying is, desperate times call for desperate measures. And if I would do my own self-evaluation if I was Jeffrey Lurie. You tried it your way for all this time, and you did win a Super Bowl by the grace of God, but where this team is going now, you need direction.
Okay, Mike, so think about this. In the last 63 years, okay, the Eagles have won 1 Super Bowl. In the last 6 years, they've gone to 2. This is what success and arrogance about success, this is what bothers me about it sometimes. Because what in God's name would have you believe that they think that their process and how they do things don't work? Because for 57 years, they didn't even get to a modern-day Super Bowl. In the last 6 years, they've gone to 2 in a row doing what they're doing. So what makes you think that they don't think that there's another coach out there that they can bring in who is a chip off of somebody else's tree that will do things the way that they want them to do it, that can't get them where they want to get to again?
I agree 100% with you. I don't think there's a chance in hell that they would go my way with this whole thing. I'm just suggesting that maybe you need, at this point, to think about going that way.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm just playing devil's advocate to your to your narrative over there.
It's ridiculous to think that those 2 control freaks would want Bill Belichick in there. I totally get it.
Do they want to win or not?
They think they've reinvented the wheel.
And Jeffrey Lurie has this adorable little teddy bear that he holds really close to him, and he has named that teddy bear Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman is the guy, Seth, that when he took him out of that closet, what did he do? He got him his first Super Bowl that he's ever had as the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, and he got him to another, and the point that we can never leave out is with a different head coach and a different quarterback. So according to their own philosophy, and I don't agree with it because I look at the arrogance, and there's no more arrogant year the Eagles have ever had, really, than the year they just had, and I'll explain that in a second. But when you talk about Howie Roseman, that is his security blanket as an owner. If I just stick with this guy, he has figured it out. The year he went away, that's the year he figured out how to be a good GM.
But can you be that oblivious to what just happened?
Absolutely. Wait, right now? No. I'm going to fire the head coach.
We're going to do it again now.
Can you be oblivious to this meltdown, which is historic in nature, proven by historic years?
Yeah. No, you can't be oblivious to it. That's why he's going to make the major change of firing the head coach, firing the coach. Jeff Stoutland, you're going to have some younger guys coming up on the offensive line. No better person to have to take care of that.
Firing the coach is not the major change. Firing the coach and grabbing an experienced guy that you have not gone through the interview process and got wowed by.
No, you know the answer to that question.
Well,
Jeffrey Lurie is not stepping aside. He's not going to rescind the power that he has now amassed since the Chip Kelly days, and he's not going to take away power from Howie Roseman.
I get it, but did you see that look on his face? Like he was gutted.
Yes, but he knows the answer.
All right.
He knows the answer.
The problem is,
By the way, I don't believe he does. He believes he is. Okay. All right.
What they need is a monumental shift in, how they look at how offensive football should be played. When I watch this offense doesn't manipulate defenses. They've got routes that are set to run, and they run their routes against whatever coverage that you're in. Okay.
You've been talking about that all year about lack of sight adjustment.
Well, and the other thing is too. If Jalen Hurts is reading cover 2 or cover 4 or cover 6 or cover 3, you have routes built into your playbook that are coverage beaters. Why isn't he checking into those routes? Okay? We had routes set tonight, and Baker Mayfield made the right throw that beat the coverage on multiple occasions. We don't do that. We haven't had offensive success like that on an efficient basis all season long because our offense isn't built to beat coverages. Patrick Mahomes beats coverages, okay? The top-tier quarterback, Jared Goff, beats coverages. Brock Purdy, they got offenses that beat coverages. Our offense is based on how talented we are and our ability to make what we run work. We don't care what you run. We don't care what coverage you're in. We're better than you are, so we can beat you. I'm telling you, that does not work. What they need to do is go and find one of those offensive coordinators, one of those offensive minds that fell off of Shanahan's tree. There's or Sean McVay's tree that understand football, offensive football, from a different perspective. Because the way that they're playing now, it is so easy for a defensive coordinator to put together a game plan. I'm going to load the box on first down. I'm going to try to get you behind the sticks. And then I'm coming after you on second down, force you to throw incomplete. Now you got 3rd and 9. I'm going to come after you again. And all the routes that you run are 10 to 15 yards or more, and we're going to play our defensive backs off and let your wide receivers just run to us. It doesn't work. It does not work, okay? So they need more of a true mind, and they need someone to come in here who can help Jalen Hurts grow as a quarterback, okay? I thought this year would be the year where you use some RPO and some read option, but you also have some 12 personnel with 2 tight ends where, you got Jalen under center, you're running stretch plays, you're running bootlegs, you're running, misdirection plays. You line up, in 11 personnel, and Jalen's under center. You're doing some of those same things. You're varying what you're doing, and you're putting him in a position where he can operate from the pocket. No, he lives in shotgun 95% of the time, and 95% of what they do is so predictable. If I'm Jalen Hurts and I got Swift lined up to my left, there's really only one place he can run the ball. That's to the right by alignment. Where else can he go? The only other play that you have, you take it and you pitch it to him. But 9 times out of 10, that's the weak side. So there's nowhere for him to go. So where do 9 out of the 10 runs go? If I'm the quarterback, I take the ball, the running backs line up here, he's getting the ball going across the formation. And you know what defensive tackles do? What teams have started doing, they spike the defensive tackle, they cut the field in half, so there's no cutback whatsoever. And they need a philosophical change in every single way. If I can see that with my eyes, and I can see what they're doing on defense and it doesn't work, and all I do is analyze the game and watch the game on a weekly basis, I don't get paid to coach. And let me say, I don't want to coach, to be honest with you, okay? I don't have 13 to 15 hours a day where I want to do that. You understand what I'm saying? But I know enough about football that when I watch the game from an analytical standpoint. I don't watch the game from the standpoint of just, I like to watch football. I don't care what a football is. I see it all. And what I'm telling you is that if I, as a defensive player whose trained eye can see all of these things, you mean to tell me that Todd Bowles and Brian Flores and Bill Belichick and all these great minds, you think they can't figure it out when they spend 15 hours a day studying it? Come on, man.
My biggest issue right now, too, is also the offensive side of the ball, because you put 9 points against this team. And I know the defense looked terrible. They can't tackle for anything. High school football players could go out there and have a little bit more passion than them. But you look at this team, okay, A.J. Brown is down. They clearly had no answer, and it seems like they just practiced like maybe A.J. Brown was playing. Julio Jones goes out with a concussion. And you look at this offense right now, but then you look at it from a year from now as well. You look at Jason Kelce, who, by the way, declined to talk to the media, so he may not be coming back. You look at the defensive side of the ball as well. Brandon Graham said he does want to come back next year if the Eagles will have him, but Fletcher Cox hasn't said anything just yet. DeAndre Swift is also another big-time free agent that you look at, but hopefully next year the Eagles can bring somebody in that'll actually utilize the run game. But you look at this right now. If the Eagles, to me, don't bring in a high-profile coach, I can see next year as being a rebuild year. And I know, Seth, you touched on this just a little bit. It's crazy to think that when you have a guy like Jalen Hurts, a guy like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, but with a young defense and how many guys they can lose and how many vets they could possibly lose, I don't like the odds if Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie say, we're going to bring in somebody that we can control once again.
I agree 100%. You know, you got to have somebody that's going to bring some cachet to the table. Let me ask you a question. If you're DeAndre Swift, do you want to re-sign with this football team?
Absolutely not. They didn't utilize him whatsoever.
So you brought in Rashad Penny, and he didn't play all season long.
Boston Scott is also a free agent, too.
Boston Scott would be retarded to actually, and excuse me, he'd be out of his mind to sign back with the Philadelphia Eagles. There's not a single running back out there that will look at this organization and say to themselves, man, I like their running game. I like the way they employ the running game. What running back wants to come here when you know that the running game is a byproduct of everything else that they do, that you're an afterthought, that you could have success and rush for 150 yards in a game and then come back and never supersede 50 for the next 10 games? So what running back wants to come here?
None. I don't think any at all. And that's why I think it's so important, guys, to get a coach that can come in here and actually change a lot of different things. I don't know if Bill Belichick is the answer. I think defensively they need a whole lot of help. But just imagine losing guys like BG and Fletcher Cox. That kind of goes away with rotation that they were able to have. And the D-line is something we looked at it during the year and said, oh, this is actually a good part of the Philadelphia Eagles defensively as well. Not that they really did anything, but Morrow and Cunningham, they are also free agents. So once again, you're going back to the drawing board with linebackers. I mean, to me, Mark, a high-profile coach has to be the answer unless they wow us all and decide to keep Nick Sirianni and everybody. But to me, that's absolutely not happening.
Yeah, I just don't see it happening. For a high-profile coach, that means that you have to get rid of some of that power that you love having if you're Jeffrey Lurie or if you're Howie Roseman. You don't want to just give that away all of a sudden. But you have to do something that's drastically different than what you did this year. And earlier when I referenced the arrogance of this franchise, I've never seen at the height that it is right now. I mean, other than maybe begging for a number one wide receiver before Terrell Owens came here for those years, that might be the only other exception. But think about this. Sean Desai had 1 year as a defensive play caller under his belt, as a defensive coordinator, under his belt. And you hired him to take over your defense after you had 70 sacks last year and got to a Super Bowl. You trusted your defense with him out of nowhere. Nobody else was begging for him to be their defensive coordinator, and the Eagles gave him that job. Brian Johnson nobody was calling for Brian Johnson to be elevated from quarterbacks coach to be their offensive coordinator anywhere else, where he could have probably gotten more money elsewhere than staying here in Philadelphia. But instead, he took over for Shane Steichen. And Nick Sirianni must be so terrible at play calling that he looked at what he saw this season and said, you know what, I can't even do a better job than Brian Johnson, and never made that change. The fact that you had that much inexperience around young guys that you're looking to develop, no better example than Jalen Hurts himself, who you just guaranteed $150 million, guaranteed $150 million to. And they said, oh, we'll be fine. And you know what? We might even improve with the defensive lineman that we got in this draft and a linebacker that we got in this draft. That's the arrogance of the Philadelphia Eagles in the way they think about this. They thought they could ride Jalen Hurts, an MVP caliber quarterback, a year ago and say, you know what, just like last year, we can outscore a lot of these teams. And just about anybody can run the defensive philosophy that we want to run, because all we're doing is saying, you know what, we just don't have to allow the big play. We get some sacks, we're going to look great. And that is the definition of Eagles arrogance when it comes to how they think they should run the football team and run the coaching staff as well.
Farzy, when I'm thinking about an offensive mind to come in here and run this offense and take over Jalen Hurts and turn him into the elite level quarterback that we all saw him elevating to, I'm going to give you a name. And then you tell me what you think about this guy and whether the Eagles will actually hire him because of his personality, okay? Just got fired down the road from us. Eric Bieniemy. Why wouldn't you bring that guy in? Andy Reid disciple? Inherent knowledge about the West Coast offense? All of those things. Took a guy like Sam Howell and made him look like a serviceable quarterback for a while, okay? He's a guy that I could see them bringing in, but they're not going to hire him. He's down there, and the players go to Ron Rivera, oh, he's too intense. He coaches too hard. Like, y'all haven't won a damn thing in 20 years, and this guy got 2 Super Bowl rings in his back pocket, and he's trying to show you what it takes to be successful, and you complain about him being too intense? No, you complain because he's holding your feet to the fire. That's the kind of guy that the Philadelphia Eagles need in here to work with and control Jalen Hurts. That's what they need.
You need players also that want their feet held to the fire. This team doesn't, evidently.
Mike, if you want to be great, though,
yeah,
listen.
I get it. You're laying out the template of what it should be. Those players have to be willing to be coached that way.
If you listen, it all begins with you as a coach and the foundation that you lay. It always starts that way. Okay, if you come in as a coach and you're trying to be everybody's friend, it never serves you well in the end.
Like Nick Sirianni?
Absolutely. It never serves
all that.
It never serves you well because your players have to understand that there's a difference between you as a player and me as a coach. Okay? Now, we're all on the same page. We're all pulling in the same direction. We all got the same goal. But there's an inherent difference between you and me. Okay? My job is to coach you and to help you become the best player that you can be so that when I put all 11 of you guys together in any phase that we can be as successful as possible, okay? That's my job as a head coach. Now, it's not my job to be your friend. It is my job to get to know you, and it is my job to create relationship. But at the end of the day, my job depends on you doing your job, okay? And if I can't get you to do what I'm coaching you to do, then ultimately I'm going to lose my job, and some of y'all sorry asses are going to lose y'all's job too. Now, the quarterback's untouchable. Some players are untouchable, but there's a whole lot of players on that roster that are replacing. You understand what I'm saying?
No question about that.
So now, what's the messaging that you have for your team? Are you here to win, or are you here for notoriety, or are you here for the money? And then me as a coach and as a GM, I've got to evaluate each and every one of you because I got to get as many of you guys that want to win championships on my roster as I can. And there's no getting away from the guys who want recognition and the money, but you'll be able to tell the difference because the minute you give a guy a contract and he doesn't want to play up and he's not committed, then you know you made a mistake. And you know the difference between the guys who are just here for the recognition because they're not going to work. They're not going to put in the extra work. They're not going to put in the extra hours, okay? So that whole thing about we need a little bit of reversion. We need to get away from this overly emotional intelligence to a certain degree because everybody's got a job to do. And when you can't hold your players' feet to the fire and when you can't hold your players accountable, it's divisive for you as a head coach. And it's divisive when it comes from the top down that this is how you should act. I'm listening to Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson and Matt Patricia talking in their press conference last week. Every single time they were asked about a player, you want to know what their response was? Oh, I got to do a better job at coaching him. How about he do his damn job? But as the offensive coordinator, the head coach, defensive coordinator, I can't talk about my player. You want to know why? Because if I talk about him in any negative way, I'm throwing him under the bus. I'm not throwing him under the bus. The truth of the matter is his sorry ass can't tackle. You asked me whether he could tackle. You asked me what the problem was, okay? But I'm supposed to cover from him because he missed 5 tackles in the game. I'm supposed to say I got to do a better job of coaching him.
Buddy would handle it, right? Buddy Ryan would handle it that way. I got to do a better job.
Dude, you, at some point in time, you have to hold your players' feet to the fire. And there's a way to do it without hurting their little feelings and them feeling like you throwing them under the bus. But there's a way to do it.
All right, let's take a break because you just brought up emotional intelligence. Our next guest has it in spades. John McMullen, who covered the game in Tampa, will join us on the Pond Hockey Eagles postgame show back after this.
Hello.
And welcome
To the Diamond Debate
with Liam and Hillary.
in the heart of Montgomeryville, Pennsylvania.
What you got for us today on your right hand, Hill?
Today we've got a right-hand ring, Liam.
What is that?
It's a ring that you would wear on your right hand.
That's it?
That's all there is to it.
Okay.
It's meant to balance your left-hand situation, or if you're not engaged or married, it says, I'm not engaged or married, but I still have this over here that's sparkly.
There's a lot of other ways you can say that.
No, not if you're trying to wear jewelry. Which
Okay.
one's your favorite?
I love this Art Deco moment. I mean, with these beautiful baguettes and round diamonds. I mean, who wouldn't say no to one of these?
Baguettes are hot right now. People also love an eternity band. It's beautiful.
Great for the other hand.
That's right. So come on down here, for love grows here at Mark's Jewelers.
Every day of the week except Sundays and Mondays.
That's because we are closed.